What's going on? Hey, we got some new intro music.
Yeah,
New year.
Groovy.
Yeah, new year, new intro music. Just thought we'd do something a little different here. All right, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to the Geeking Squad podcast here on the Geeking Poetic channel. Yeah, there we go. I, of course, am your host, Larry Roberts. Over here on my right is my co-host and none other than
Megan, yes.
And Happy New Year, everybody. Happy New Year, Meg.
Happy New Year.
So it is 2024, and we've been gone for a little bit. We haven't done, I know we say we're going to do this every 2 weeks, but, you know, the holidays make things a little crazy. We finally wanted to get back to this. We're going to be playing a little bit of catch up here, but this is a show, if you're not familiar with us already, this is a show where we talk about pop culture stuff. Mostly we talk about stuff that has been shared or discussed in the Geeking Squad group on Facebook, which is a group that the two of us here moderate and run. Mm-hmm. And in that group, people are free to share memes or articles or stories, jokes, polls, all kinds of things related to the stuff that we love, which would be movies and TV shows and cartoons and comics and music.
Geeky pop culture.
Yeah, geeky pop culture that mostly for Gen X geeks like us, but, you know, not just limited to that completely. So this first segment we're going to get into is one of our favorites because it's kind of the catch-all where we talk about what's going on in the latest news of pop culture with films and all that kind of stuff. And it's a segment that we call...
What's shaking, bacon?
So in 2024, that hasn't gotten old for you yet?
Nope.
Okay, she still likes it.
Still loving it.
All right, well, unfortunately, the thing is we always start off our happy, fun-loving show with talking about dead people. Just like, you know, Meg over here is like the kid in The Sixth Sense. She sees dead people. No, we like to pay tribute to those artists and actors, musicians, whomever, that were a part of our growing up or whatever that have recently passed away. We just want to mention them in loving tribute. And these next couple had a big impact on me in different ways. These were two different artists that had different connections to the Beatles in a sense. And they both passed away within just like days of each other. So first up, we had musician Denny Laine. Now, Denny was initially known for being the leader of the Moody Blues back in the early 1960s. He famously had a big hit with a song called Go Now, which if you're into the old 60s stuff like me, you'll probably know that song. But where he really kind of became mostly known was because he hooked up in the early 1970s with none other than Paul McCartney as well as Paul's wife Linda, and they formed the band Wings. Now, you've heard of Wings,
I've heard of Wings, yes.
Okay. And he was with them for nearly a decade. And ironically, the same day that Denny passed away just this past month was the same day that they re-released the most successful album Wings ever did, which was Band on the Run. Now, you know Band on the Run, right? Okay.
I do.
Yeah, that was by far, I would say that was their biggest album. They had a bunch of hits, but Band on the Run is the one that I think most people associate the Paul McCartney and Wings with and stuff. So they just recently did a special 50th anniversary package because it came out in 1973. In fact, I think I talked about it some when we did our top 5 albums of 1973 a couple years ago. And
sure you did.
Yeah, I probably did, but because I loved that album. But anyway, the same day that they announced that package came out, Denny passed away at age 79 after having been ill for a little while, apparently. So that's a shame. It's a shame he didn't get to at least stick around long enough to see all the new wave of accolades and, you know, praise that the album was getting because, you know, it brought a lot of attention again to this awesome album from 50 years ago. But yeah, sad to hear about Denny. He hadn't worked with Paul since the early 1980s. Yeah, I was really sad to hear about that. Another one that I was even more sad to hear about that passed away just shortly before Denny's passing was that of singer and actress Sandy Farina. Now, I'm sure a lot of you out there are probably going to go, I don't know who Sandy Farina is. Well, Sandy Farina was a successful session vocalist. That was kind of what she'd been mostly doing over the last several decades and stuff. She was singing on a lot of other people's sessions, doing commercial work and everything. She also wrote a lot of popular music. She wrote for artists like Barbra Streisand, and I think she did something for Kenny Rogers. She had done a bunch of different songwriting things, but what a lot of people, especially in the pop culture world, would know her for was that she, in the late 1970s, appeared in a movie very near and dear to my heart called Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, starring Peter Frampton and the Bee Gees. It is a very infamous movie. Some people think it is absolutely terrible, and other people like myself absolutely love that movie. And she played the lead female character in it. She played Strawberry Fields, and she sang the song Strawberry Fields in that movie. She also sang a really great version of Here Comes the Sun in that movie. I love that movie. I love that soundtrack, and I loved Sandy Farina. I was such a big fan of her. She had a wonderful singing voice. Even the stuff she did in the 1980s, she had done some solo work and everything. She had a song that was kind of a minor hit called Body Talk that was in a couple of 80s movies and stuff. She was great. She was such a unique talent, a really standout voice and everything. And yeah, she passed away at only 68 years old.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a shame.
It's young.
Yeah, it is too young. For nowadays, that is way too young. And I don't know what it was she passed away from. I couldn't find. I'm going to guess it was probably cancers or something like that. So anyway, yeah, it was disappointing. And I happened to find out this news just by chance because I really wanted to listen to the soundtrack. And at the time when I wanted to hear it, I had no other way to listen to it other than to go onto YouTube. And I looked it up, and one of the first things that came up was the clip of her singing Here Comes the Sun. And I was like, ooh, I want to hear that because that's one of my favorites. And I was watching it, and just while I was listening to her sing the song, I said, I'll look down at the YouTube comments, and I started seeing people saying, rest in peace, Sandy, and all this. And I was like, oh, you got to be kidding me. And only to find out that she just died. Like, it just happened. I do that way too much.
Wow.
I always do that. Like, I'll think of somebody, like some random person, and I'll be like, oh, I wonder whatever became of that person. And I'll look it up, and I'll find out they died like yesterday or that day or whatever. I do that a lot, and I apologize because I think I'm bad luck. But in any case, she was an actress and a singer and did not get anywhere near as much success as she deserved. So very sad to hear that Sandy Farina's gone. And I know some of you out there are like me, and you love that silly ass movie and that soundtrack. So let me know in the comments if that was a favorite of yours too, because that's something I plan on doing a longer thing about in the future. I've talked about it with some of our friends, some of the other Geeking Squad members, like Mike Rees and Eric and all those guys. I am doing a Sgt. Pepper's episode. I don't care what y'all
all
say.
Band together. Okay?
Yeah.
You see what I did there? Band together.
Oh boy, it's a band on the run.
Right.
See what we did there? Oh boy.
Well,
Let's move on to something completely opposite. Let's pick it up. Something really positive. You told me about this one. So what's going on here?
yeah, so I came across a photo. Technically, I don't know if it was actually an article, but Brad Paisley, if you don't know, is a country singer.
Oh, I know Brad Paisley. He's awesome.
You do, yes. And his wife, Kimberly Williams Paisley, who's an actress.
Right, Kimberly Williams. Yeah.
They had worked with Belmont University since March of 2020 to open, it's like a free grocery store, but it's referral based.
Okay.
So you can go and get free groceries if you needed that.
Right.
So that alone is awesome.
Yeah, and I think that was just called The Store.
The
right?
Store, yes.
Yeah, okay.
So, but this year, this December, they, in addition to that, opened the toy store in the same premise where they gave away free toys
right.
based on referrals.
Right.
So same thing. So that was a very giving contribution to society, and I just thought that was amazing.
Yeah, Brad Paisley is awesome. From everything I know, because, from the Seymour Duncan thing, I know a little bit about Brad Paisley and everything. From everything I know, he's a really good dude. He's a really like generous, down to earth kind of guy, even though he's a huge star and everything. So that doesn't totally surprise me that he's doing these kind of charities. That's really cool. Yeah, not just the groceries, but then doing like toys at Christmas and stuff. That's wonderful. Yeah, I was pretty excited when you showed that picture to me. I was like, oh, that's awesome. I always forget that he's married to Kimberly Williams too.
Oh, do you?
Yeah, I completely forgot about that. I was like, oh, yeah, that's right. That's really cool. I'd be curious to know how many people that helped out. Hopefully a lot of them. So I know you have some other really exciting news on a more personal interest level. I'm not that familiar with this TV show, but I know you talk about it all the time.
Yes, this is one of my absolute favorites. So I was so excited when they did this spin-off show.
Right.
It's called Leverage Redemption.
Right.
And they have announced that the third season is finally coming. We had to wait over a year for this thing.
Okay.
But it's finally here. And not only is it coming, it is moving from Freevee to Prime Video, which is huge for them.
Yeah, that's great. Because Freevee, I mean, I got to be honest with you. Like, Freevee's cool, don't get me wrong. But I don't watch it that often.
No.
And if I do, it's to like watch old reruns of shit. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like those things like Pluto and all that stuff. I don't really watch it to watch like exciting new programming.
Right.
Prime Video, on the other hand, is way more high profile. So that's really good.
It's a much bigger platform for them to go off of. But from what I understand, the old seasons are still going to be on Freevee.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
For now, but the new one will be out there. So I'm super stoked. I absolutely adore all these characters, and they're all coming back. One of the original creators is coming back to help out.
I saw that. Yeah.
So I am so stoked.
Yeah, let us know if there's any Leverage or Leverage Redemption fans out there.
Yes, I am not alone. Join me, please.
Yeah, Meg wants to talk to y'all.
I need to talk to somebody who knows what I'm talking about here.
Exactly, because I've never watched it. I may have seen. I don't think I've seen Redemption. Maybe I've seen an episode of it. I saw a little bit of the original Leverage and stuff because I think they were showing that on like Pluto, right? Isn't there like a Leverage channel?
Yeah, there's a
Pluto?
whole Leverage channel at one time. It's not there anymore. But
oh, it's not.
Yeah, I binge watched like crazy.
Okay.
When it was on Pluto, so
I'm sure you did. Yeah, that doesn't surprise me. Speaking of shows that we binge watch a lot, we have to get into our beloved Star Trek.
Yeah.
So we talked earlier this year. We talked at great length about Star Trek Picard because unlike a lot of other people, we really enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Again, just like with the other seasons of Picard, there were some things to nitpick, but overall, I thought it was pretty great. You know, I really did enjoy it. It's one that I want to go back and watch again at some point. But that, along with Strange New Worlds, which now have you watched Strange New Worlds?
I absolutely have, and it deserves every nomination it gets except for the musical.
Okay, now I gotta be honest. As much of a Trekkie as I am, I've never watched Strange New Worlds.
And you love Christopher Pike.
I love all those characters, number one, and Christopher Pike and all them. That, like, I know it's so made for me.
Get
that show.
Your stuffs together.
I don't have time.
Watch it already.
I wish I had time, but I just don't have time, unfortunately. But yeah, and for the record, my buddy Eric told me that he thought the musical episode was great. Eric Shade loved it. He was saying Oh, that's different. If it's Eric Shade, then it's like, I should have known.
Yeah, so that's all you need to say.
Eric, she's dissing you, man.
Don't I? I love you, Eric.
No, he said he thought it was really good and that the one character was like a really good vocalist and all this stuff. I think he was probably looking at it more from like the musician standpoint. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Well, in any case.
Yeah, we'll have to save that for a whole episode once you actually watch it.
In any case, so Picard, Strange New Worlds, and the animated series Lower Decks, which I've watched a little bit of, and it's okay. It's kind of funny and stuff. But those shows have all racked up a total of 15 nominations for the Saturn Awards this year.
That's awesome.
That is awesome. I like to see it get some respect because I really feel like across the board, whether it's from critics or just general audiences or even from Trek fans, I know Strange New Worlds has gotten pretty good, props from the fan world and everything. But
and Lower Deck seems to be really taking off.
Is it?
I started watching it and I was having a heck of a time getting into it. They talk so incredibly fast, which is funny because I talk incredibly fast too, but I couldn't understand them.
Yeah.
But I need to go back and give this a fair shake because it's really getting a lot of credit now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, well, and maybe
that doesn't surprise me it got nominated.
Right. Don't write it off because just like with us, like with Clone Wars and Rebels and stuff, wasn't so interested at first. And then in the end, it was like, oh my God, this is fantastic.
You're right. Maybe it's the same. You're right.
Yeah. Maybe it's the same thing with Lower Decks. But anyway, really cool to see all those Trek shows getting those kind of props. Now, as a toy collector, speaking of Star Trek, on a negative side of sorts, it was recently announced that Playmates Toys no longer has the license to the Star Trek line.
Wow.
Yeah, and you got them on the screen there. We're looking at it here in the studio. You're very well acquainted with those toys because those were the ones that you collected as a kid.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's upsetting.
Meg is a bona fide geek. Let me tell you, she don't anybody think that she isn't because boy oh boy.
Yeah, we got my originals from the 90s and I got my new ones. So.
Yeah, she loves the Playmates Star Trek toys, and that line started in the early 90s with the Next Gen figures and everything, and then eventually it extended into all the movies and DS9 and Voyager and Classic Trek, all that stuff. I have a ton of them as well. Luke has like every toy that was made from Playmates between like 1992 and 1998 or whatever it is. He's got a crazy collection of that stuff. I love those toys, but unfortunately they tried to recently do a resurgence. I think you picked up a couple of them actually, and they were really cool, but I just think that the demand for them is not there anymore, especially since you can still get the original ones pretty easily. Like, you can find them at most toy resale shops and toy shows and things like that, and they're not all that expensive with a few exemptions there. I mean, like if you try to get like a Data Redemption figure or a Tapestry Picard or one of those ones that were like really limited, those are hard to get and expensive, but generally, to get a Khan figure or a Picard figure or whatever, like those are just not that hard to get. So I think that it was a noble try for Playmates to try and revamp that line again, but it was doomed.
Yeah, I guess it's rumblings that Super 7's moving away from Star Trek too.
Oh, really? Yeah, I like those Super 7 figures too.
Yeah, they did not have any Trek at the New York Comic Con display in October.
Wow.
And there's no Trek in their upcoming release schedule at all. So
right now, it's not good timing for it. Maybe down the line, it'll come back, but yeah. And the problem with the Super 7, like I am one of those people that loves Super 7 toys, the reaction figures, but a lot of collectors complain and say, I'm not paying $18 a figure.
They're a little expensive.
They're a little expensive, but it's so funny how we'll like figure things like that out because we'll be like, I'm not paying $18 for that. But then we're like the same people will be like, oh, I'll pay $100 for that rare Labyrinth Funko, right? Like you did, or I'll pay that much for this Mego figure or something like that. It's like, it's funny how we weigh that out in our heads, like what's worth it and what's not.
Our toy math.
Yeah, toy math, exactly. That's a perfect term for it. But in any case, so for any Star Trek fans and Star Trek collectors out there, we're kind of going into a dark period here, unfortunately. So, and again, if any of you out there do collect this stuff, let us know. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. So moving away from toys and movies and all that stuff, I wanted to get into something that I don't get to talk that much about on here and I need to do more of in this year, and that is talking about music stuff. They just, at the end of the year, they just announced a slew of tours that are going to be happening in 2024. And I mean, there's a ton of them. There's going to be a lot of artists touring in 2024, especially since that's the only way any of us make any money anymore, if we're lucky. But the ones that really caught my eye and I want to talk about here real briefly there's a lot of really cool, like, package tours that are coming up this year. Some of these package tours were Def Leppard and Journey, along with a rotating list of opening bands, which include the Steve Miller Band, Heart, and Cheap Trick.
That's going to be a killer show.
That is awesome. Yeah, I'm wearing a Def Leppard shirt right now.
You are, actually.
Yeah, Def Leppard and Journey, two of my favorites. So that's awesome. That's a really good tour. Another one on a personal level I'm really excited about is Adamant, from England from Adam and the Ants fame. Adam Ant and the English Beat.
Another great show.
Yeah, so if you're into like 80s new wave kind of stuff like that, that's a really good one that's going to be coming through here in like February, March, April. Another one that we have intentions on going to see is Sammy Hagar and Loverboy. Mm-hmm. And what's particularly interesting about this Sammy Hagar tour is that he has teamed up with, it's like a super group. So it's Sammy, Mike Anthony on bass and vocals from Van Halen. So you've got half of the Van Hagar, Van Halen era. Mm-hmm. You've got Joe Satriani on guitar,
wow.
which is, I mean, come on, it's Joe Satriani. And then you've got Jason Bonham on drums. You know, obviously, if I got to tell people who Jason Bonham is, just look it up. You know, he's a legend now in his own right, just like his dad. And they're going to be primarily focusing on playing Van Halen stuff, which is cool for somebody like me because I never got to see the Van Hagar lineup. I never saw that live. So that's pretty exciting, and that's why I really want to go see it now, and especially with Satriani playing Van Halen stuff. Come on, man. And Loverboy is cool, too. I've got, I like quite a few of their songs. I even play some of them in the cover band. So that's cool. Another one that is a personal favorite of this one over here to my right.
Yes.
Bryan Adams is coming back.
Oh, I'm going.
Are you going to go?
I gotta.
Yeah, Bryan Adams and the Eurythmics, which is super cool. So Sweet Dreams Are Made of This and stuff like that. There Must Be an Angel. Would I Lie to You? That's going to be a night full of hits.
Take my money.
Yeah, so that's a really good one. Moving over into the metal world, Pantera, which is contentious, I know, because it's only half of Pantera because obviously the brothers are gone. Dime and Vinny are gone. But the reformed Pantera with Zakk Wylde and Charlie Benante on drums are coming around with Lamb of God opening. That's a big metal show right there. Pantera and Lamb of God. That's going to sell out. On the complete opposite of that, you've got in the Southern rock world, which I would love to see this show personally, Lynyrd Skynyrd and ZZ Top, man.
Oh my gosh.
That's a good one. I've never seen ZZ Top, which is weird. You'd think I would have seen him by now, but I've never seen ZZ Top. And I've seen Skynyrd a couple times, but it's been, oh gosh, I don't think I've seen Skynyrd in 20 years or more. So that would be cool to see. Speaking of Satriani, he's also going to be doing a tour because, again, these are all these cool pairings. Joe Satriani and his very famous former student, Steve Vai. So if you're a guitarist like me and you're a guitar nerd, you kind of almost can't top that one, Here's one that you would be interested in, and actually me too. Kenny Chesney and the Zac Brown Band are touring together.
That'd be a great show.
That would be a great show.
I've never seen Chesney.
We saw Zac Brown several years ago and everything. Yeah, they were really good, but never seen Chesney. The problem with Chesney is his tickets are always so expensive, man. Speaking of expensive tickets, the other big tour news, because, it's got to be one of the last tours for these guys, is the Rolling Stones.
Wow. You
believe they're touring? But what's crazy? I listened to that new Stones album a little bit. It's fantastic.
Is it really?
It's so good. If you like the Rolling Stones, if you don't like the Rolling Stones, you're not going to think it's fantastic if you're not into that kind of stuff. But I heard it and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so energetic and wow. It doesn't sound like music made by a bunch of 80-year-old guys. You know what I mean? It was really good. I was blown away. Here's another one for people not quite as old, but definitely a throwback. We've got New Kids on the Block are coming back.
That was actually a great show when I went and saw it. I would see that again.
Yeah, well, this time New Kids are coming around with Paula Abdul and DJ Jazzy Jeff. So that'll be fun.
Yes.
That sounds like a really fun show. That's going to be for all you 90s kids, man.
That's a lot of dancing right there.
Exactly. And then for you early 2000s kids, we've got a team up of Pink and Sheryl Crow.
That would be a fabulous show.
Yeah, that's interesting. And that's an interesting
pairing, yeah.
Because Cheryl's so much more kind of like rootsy rock, pop kind of thing. And Pink is like a little bit more like that energetic, dancey pop kind of rock thing.
Screw with me and find out. rock.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, Pink will kick your ass, man. Sheryl Crow might as well. Now that I think about it, they're no slouches. And then last but not least, there's a bunch of other ones, but I can't leave out all the 90s, punk rock kind of kids and stuff. This would be the one that would appeal to Matt if Matt was here, and that is Green Day, Smashing Pumpkins, and Rancid. Oh my God, I kind of want to go to that show. Like, I like all three bands. I especially like Smashing Pumpkins and Rancid. Green Day's okay. I like some of their stuff. I like their earlier stuff. That's going to be a really, really good show. Is anybody out there going to any of these shows? Have any of you got tickets yet for any of these? Because I would love to know. Speaking of tours, and it's actually the last tour that I went to go see, or one, I think it was the last show that I got to go see back around Thanksgiving, was Kiss just recently ended their never-ending, it seemed, farewell tour, and they did them at Madison Square Garden. Unfortunately, those shows were fraught with a lot of complaints afterwards, one not least of which because Kiss fans are pains in the asses. And listen, if anybody out there is going to get all offended, I am a massive...
Or the biggest.
I am a massive Kiss fan. So if people want to sit there and be like, well, I bet you're not that big of a Kiss fan. Oh, challenge me. I dare you to challenge me.
You got a Kiss hoodie on right now.
I'm wearing a Kiss hoodie right now over my Def Leppard shirt. Yeah, You
are a fanatic.
I know my Kiss stuff. I know the trivia. I can tell you all the catalog numbers of each vinyl record. That's how much of a dork I am about it. I can do it by memory. I loved the last two shows that I saw. I thought they were great fun. But from what I understand, the big complaint was a lot of people paid a lot of money and went through a lot of trouble and traveled from all over the world to go to these farewell shows, expecting it to be some big, spectacular farewell.
Especially the last one.
The last one ever in New York, where they're from, at Madison Square Garden. Everybody expected there might be something special, and they did nothing special.
It's just like all the other shows, right?
It was basically just like all the other shows, except for the very end, where Kiss just sort of they didn't even really say goodnight. They just sort of at the end, after Rock and Roll All Night and the confetti and smashing the guitar, there was a bunch of smoke and the band just sort of disappeared into it. And then up on the screens, all of a sudden, a new video showed, and it was announcing that Kiss will be, quote unquote, carrying on, but they will be carrying on in virtual reality AI form of sorts, where it's going to be the Kiss avatars. So it's going to be these computer-generated Kiss guys are going to be going out, and I guess it's really vague. They haven't really thoroughly explained how they're going to do this or anything. They're going to be, computer-generated versions of the Kiss guys that are going to be going out and performing, whether it's going to be a tour or it's going to be at a place. I mean, have they even announced when this is supposed to happen? Do we know?
So it does say that they have announced the first digital avatar show that will take place, but not until 2027.
And that makes sense because, to be honest with you, I saw the video of the digital avatars and I was like, this doesn't look all that great. And I'm not trying to, again, I'm not one of these people that's like so many of these other Kiss fans that complains about everything. I'm grateful for what I get when it comes to Kiss for the most part. But I was looking at them and I'm like, this doesn't look that great. And I thought there might be more to it. When ABBA just recently started doing this, where they're having shows where ABBA, quote unquote, ABBA is performing, but they're these digital avatars, almost like these holograms of sorts. They're performing there with a live band, and the actual artists voices, it's their real voices and stuff. But obviously the members of ABBA are in their 70s and 80s now. They can't do all that. So the avatars look like classic 1977 ABBA. And from everything I've heard, it's supposed to be phenomenal. It's a really cool experience, and they actually built their own venue for it to be able to support this and stuff. Because I don't think you can just take that sort of thing out and have it be in Allstate Arena or Madison Square Garden or something like that. I think you have to have a special facility that can handle all that stuff, because it's new technology and everything. So it makes sense that this isn't going to be for another 3 years because I think they got to figure all that out.
Yeah, they got a lot of work to do.
And I'm looking forward to checking it out, but yeah, I don't know. We'll see. But a lot of people were really disappointed that was all we got. And some people felt like they should have just waited. Like we should have just had a proper ending.
Right. That's why it took away from what the farewell tour is.
Right.
And the final show that all these people paid a ton of money to be there for.
Right.
It's supposed to be a special night for them, and it was taken away.
Yeah, it was. I can see how
this isn't a farewell at all.
It just, yeah, and that was the idea. They're like, we're not saying goodbye. We're just showing you the. It's like, oh, people needed to say goodbye, man.
Yeah.
Like, I think they needed to do that. And people were complaining that Kiss themselves just didn't show any kind of like, they could have broke the fourth wall a little bit and shown a little more emotion about the whole thing. And I mean, people that I know that actually even know the Kiss guys personally, some of the people I know who know them personally came out and said like, oh, what a fucking disappointment. These guys should have been being teary-eyed and they should have thrown out. They should have mentioned Eric Carr, for Christ's sakes, since he died and he was such a big part of Kiss. Should have mentioned Bruce Kulick and Ace Frehley. They should have done something, even if it was just really brief. They could have done something. I thought maybe at the very end, like before Rock and Roll Night or something like that, I thought maybe they would do Let Me Know, the first song off the first album, the first song that Gene and Paul ever wrote together. and they used to do as an encore back when they did the Kiss Alive tour and stuff like that back in 75. Like I thought maybe they'd do something just unique for that one show. You know what I mean? And they didn't. It was just like business as usual. And it's like,
because to them it is, because it's not their last show. They've still got a lot of work to do.
Yeah, I think they miscalculated that personally.
Yep.
And then one last final note. Speaking of Kiss, we can mention a very well-known ex of Gene Simmons, none other than Cher. She became the first female artist in history to have a #1 hit song on the charts in each of the last 7 decades. She has had a #1 song in every decade for the last 7 decades. Isn't that crazy?
That's awesome.
Yeah, first female artist in history to do that. She scored a #1 song on the Billboard charts this December with the song DJ Play a Christmas Song.
I heard it one time on the radio.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I heard it like once too. For it being #1, you think it would have got played a little bit more, but I guess they didn't have any room with having to play Mariah Carey over and over again, So, but in any case, that's cool. I love Cher. I think Cher's awesome. You like Cher, don't you?
Oh yeah, she puts on a fabulous show.
Yeah, you guys went and saw that.
Amazing.
Yeah, I saw her years ago and she was great. So yeah, she's excellent. So, cheers to her. But all right, so let's get a little word from our sponsor here before we move on to the next segment. You down for that?
I'm down.
All right, here we go.
You're listening to the Prescribed Films Podcast Network, home to hundreds of hours of free podcast entertainment. The shows on this network all have a common goal, providing you with the best discussions about movies and other forms of entertainment media. The PFPN hopes to fill your earholes with audio joy. Visit our website with links to all the other amazing shows at www.thepfpn.com. Thanks for listening.
And we are back with a little bit of that good old smooth talking squad talk. Yeah, I'm trying to be like old, like 70s, soul radio DJ or something.
Is that what that was supposed to be?
Yeah, it didn't work. Yeah, I'll be the first to admit it didn't work. So in the squad talk segment, we usually talk more about real world kind of stuff or, things that are being discussed. It's not just about fantastical things or, trailers or media news stuff. This is more just like about the chats that go on amongst us in the group. So we have a bunch of little things that you all in the Geeking Squad group shared and brought up, and I thought they were worth talking about. So our aforementioned pal, Matt, shared a funny, yet I thought it was kind of a thought-provoking meme where he talked about one of my favorite movies. In fact, I'm pretty sure I mentioned this when we did our top 20 favorite movies of all time. I know I definitely focused. To me, they're kind of almost like one movie, Infinity War and Endgame. So he brought up something about Infinity War that I hadn't really thought about, and it was the fact that earlier in the movie, there's the scene where Thanos's minions show up on Earth, and they're trying to get the next Infinity Stone, and Doctor Strange and the heroes start fighting against them. And at one point, Doctor Strange uses his portal power to basically cut off the arm of this one creature. I forget the creature's name. It's one of Thanos' big baddie monsters or whatever. It closes in on his arm as he's trying to reach through it, Strange, and it cuts his arm right off. And they showed it. They made a very big point of showing that it cut his arm off. And they made a point of showing that it did that and that it was capable of doing that and everything. Yet the rest of the movie almost is spent with these same heroes, Strange included, trying to figure out in vain how they can get the Infinity Gauntlet off of Thanos' hand. I mean, they made a big show of that. The whole thing where, Mantis is trying to put him to sleep and everything, and Peter's trying to pull the gauntlet off his arm and all this, and they won't come off and blah, blah, blah. So my question is, when they were doing all that, why couldn't Doctor Strange have used his portal power to just chop off the arm with the gauntlet on it?
So clearly it's because Thanos is the strongest character that ever was in the MCU, because he's way stronger. He just tosses around Captain Marvel like she's nothing.
Right.
Which also irritated you, but
yeah, it did, because I think it's inaccurate. But I mean, so you're thinking that he was so strong that portal wouldn't have been able to cut off his arm?
I don't think they could have tricked him long enough for the portal to do what it needed to do for him to stay put.
Yeah, I suppose that's true.
He would have had some way to counteract that. It wasn't going to be that easy. Which maybe that would have been cool if they tried it and then showed him like destroying the portal.
Yeah, I was just going to say maybe that would have been more satisfactory. Is that since they showed it happen earlier, it almost feels like that could have been like a really good precursor for being like, they could do that again. And if they would have shown that wouldn't have worked on him or something, then it would have been like, wow,
okay.
Yeah. Exactly. Otherwise, because as it stands right now, it just feels like a loophole.
It does, yeah.
So, okay. All right, fair enough. All right, just like I said.
Very interesting. That's a good point.
A few different points here that different members brought up about some of these movies. Another one is Chris Lynn shared article meme thing that was discussing the fact that none of these Willy Wonka remakes they've done over the last couple of decades have ever gotten it right, mainly due to the fact that he was so unhinged and unpredictable. And when I say he, I'm meaning the Gene Wilder version, what most people consider to be the Willy Wonka.
Yeah. And
in that version, you really didn't know, honestly, if he was going to let the kids die.
It's so true.
Because he was so sinister and everything. And I got to say, to me, that's one of the main reasons why I think these new Wonka movies haven't really been able to take off. I think that's what the Tim Burton version got wrong. Even though I didn't hate that version, I haven't hated any of these other versions of it from what I've seen of them. What was so appealing to people and what made adults and all different people get into it was the fact that it wasn't just some la 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 kiddie movie. It was wait a minute, this is really twisted.
Yeah.
Not just twisted in that wow, it's so psychedelic and weird.
No, it was kind of messed up.
It was kind of menacing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was like the kind of movie that at the same time, if you were a 10-year-old kid, you could watch that movie and be like, okay, on one hand, I love this because, I wish there was a Wonka factory like that and I could go there and swim in the chocolate and all this other kind of stuff. But at the same time, you'd have nightmares about it too, because you'd be like, oh my God, that's a terrifying place.
Right. The guy in his big eyes and crazy hair.
This guy's trying to kill me and everything. Yeah. Yeah. Even when he freaks out at Charlie at the end, there was so much drama there.
Yeah.
And everything. And that movie just had this perfect balance of drama and comedy and silliness and, heartfelt moments and everything. That's what makes the original Willy Wonka so good that these other movies have not really gotten right. Now, that being said, though, I gotta say that the newly released Wonka movie, I haven't seen it yet. I've seen parts of it and stuff, but it's been like received pretty well from what I've seen.
It's doing pretty good.
But I think what's making it work is that from everything I've seen and know about it, it's taking like a totally different type of like approach to it.
Okay.
And like how do I explain it? I saw somebody else explain it this way, and then I was like, oh, that makes sense from what I know of it, is that they kind of took an approach to it like they did with the Paddington movies, where it's got you're taking this like child's book, this somewhat simple kind of, kid's story thing, but they're adding this maturity to it that plays better for like adults and stuff like that. And it's hard to explain, but from what I read, I was like, oh, okay. At least if they're going to do something with this story, then they're like, we're not even going to try to match the original, which I feel like in some ways the other movie did. It was trying to be like, oh, we're going to be the new version of the original Willy Wonka movie.
Oh, okay.
And it didn't work.
It didn't work. Okay.
But this one's like, no. We're going to approach it from like a different angle and stuff. So I'm definitely more interested now in seeing this new one after the little bits I've seen and the reviews I've seen of it and stuff. Whether it's going to live up to the Gene Wilder version, I don't know. But
yeah, I don't think it's like apples and oranges.
Right. And I think that's the approach they took with this one. So as such, I'm kind of more interested now in seeing it. So if I do see it, I'll have to let you guys know what I thought and everything.
Yes, please.
Lisa Nicole in the group actually mentioned an article. Oh my God. Even just thinking about this is making my stomach churn right now. She mentioned that scientists have came up with a way to make a thicker and more long-lasting flavored Malort.
Oh God!
So that when you drink it, it lasts longer on your tongue.
Why?
Yeah, I mean, was anybody asking for that?
Right.
Like, does anybody? I want to know again. I want to know. Does anybody out there drink Malort for the taste? Like, do you actually like the taste of Malort? Now, I have to say that there are times that I've drank Malort and it's been okay. Not great, but it was okay. And then there were times like when we did the challenge, when we did the trivia torture.
Right, which is actually why she shared this in the group.
Oh,
she remembers
okay.
we did that before, so she shared it just so we could relive that horror of a moment.
Damn you, Lisa. Why would you do that to us? Because it did. I got to say, it got everybody in the group dry heaving. Like the reactions from everybody in the group when she shared that was like, oh my God, it's just terrible. Yeah, yeah. I do not recommend. 1 star. Do not recommend. Yeah, because
like half a star.
Yeah, half a star. No stars. Yeah, exactly. I do not need a thicker and longer lasting Malort. Nobody in the world needs that. Maybe unless you're trying to use it as like ways of getting
torture.
getting people to tell the truth or something, or something, using it like castor oil or one of those. Like, remember that was always a thing. Remember that in the old cartoons? It was always like there was the thing like about taking castor oil. You would see that in like a Tom and Jerry cartoon where the bottle would accidentally tip over and Jerry'd swallow a bunch of it and get sick and everything. Like as a kid, now I never had or was around castor oil, but as a kid, I was like terrified of castor oil because of those cartoons. When I was a kid back in the day, like the worst things that could happen would have been being forced to drink castor oil and quicksand.
Yes.
Because everything was quicksand, man. I really thought
would be a real problem.
Yeah, exactly. Like that joke. I forget where that joke came from, but it is true. That is like a spot on joke that it's like when we were kids, we thought quicksand was going to really be a problem in our lives. Lastly, here for this segment, Chris Lynn again, she shared a cool Choose meme. We haven't had Choose memes in a while. Now, I shouldn't say that. We have had Choose memes, but they've been ones that have been propagated by us and that we did for the holidays and stuff. That's why we were so busy. We normally we would have been doing that in segments like this, but we had some Choose memes that we actually did some videos, and we've got some cool YouTube shorts for those that don't want to sit through the whole video. If you just want to see the the 1 minute result, look through our YouTube shorts and you will see them. We did some holiday ones, but we have one that has nothing to do with the holidays. It has to do with the Old West. And this was a cool one because I was like, oh, this actually was really thought provoking for me because I grew up watching a lot of these shows.
Did you?
Oh, yeah. Back in the 70s and even the early 80s. On the weekends, especially like on a Sunday morning, it was always all about these shows. It was the old westerns and stuff because they were still like in syndication and reruns and stuff back then. And that's what I grew up with. I didn't have cable. I had 5 stations or something to choose from, and that was it. So this meme asks, you're in trouble in Old West TV land. Which one of these characters do you want to come help you? And out of that, the choices were the character Matt Dillon, and we're not talking about Matt Dillon from There's Something About Mary, Matt Dillon, not the actor, but the cowboy, Matt Dillon. He was from Gunsmoke. We have Paladin from Have Gun Will Travel. You might know that from, what's the Stephen King movie? Stand By Me, when they're singing about Paladin. Jim West from The Wild Wild West. And we're not talking about Will Smith and his Wild Wild West. Lucas McCain from The Rifleman. Another Kane from Kung Fu. That's the most modern one on this list because that was from the 70s. And then last but not least, the Lone Ranger. So we were asked to pick one of those. Meg, can you pick any of those? Are you familiar with these?
Not really. No.
Oh, that surprises me.
No, but I'm going to go off these pictures. And I was choosing between Jim West.
Okay.
Because he looks real sharp. He's a very sharp dressed man.
Yeah.
Good haircut. But he doesn't have a cowboy hat. That's just not right. Maybe he's just not wearing it in this picture.
Yeah.
Okay. And then, of course, the Lone Ranger.
Yeah.
That one I remember the best, and he's got a cool mask, so you don't know who he is.
Right.
So we can just kind of, once the fighting's over, just take the mask off and walk around like normal people. Nobody will know who we are. And he's got a cool horse.
Silver. Hi-ho Silver.
Yes.
That's it. Yep.
So, I mean, that's the one I remember the most from this list, so I go the Lone Ranger.
Well, I'm with you. For me, it's Lone Ranger. Now, I watched all of these, and they're all cool. They're all good for different reasons and stuff. But the Lone Ranger, I was a big, big fan of Lone Ranger when I was a kid. Plus, it was also helped by the fact that in the late 70s, early 80s, they came out with the Legend of the Lone Ranger movie. They did that movie and stuff. So that was a big deal for me back then. And I watched all of these. Ironically, one of the ones that I used to watch all the time is not on this list, and that's the Cisco Kid. I used to watch that all the time on WGN Channel 9 in Chicago and stuff. So that would have been tough for me. But yeah, I got to go with Lone Ranger. I would say my follow-up, I might go with Chuck Connor's Lucas McCain from The Rifleman. He was a badass. Yeah, Chuck Connors is a bad dude, man. So yeah, that was fun. All right. Well, let's move on.
What do you suggest?
And we are in the home stretch here. This is where we suggest to all of you at home something that we are into that we think you should go and check out. And it can be any number of things, books, movies, TV, music, whatever. This week, it is a TV show. And this is one that I talked about not too long ago on the Squadcast here when it was announced that it was coming out. Well, I recently started watching it, and just like the first season, maybe even more so than the first season, I am really loving the second season, and that is Disney Plus's Marvel Cinematic Universe's What If Season 2. Oh, man. I'm digging the hell out of it. I first of all, I'm a big fan of the What If comic books. That's one of my biggest favorites of all time when it comes to comic book series is the Marvel What If series. I always loved those ever since I was little. They were some of the first comics I ever read, which was kind of confusing for a kid who didn't know the regular lore of a lot of these characters. And then I'm reading the What If versions of it and stuff, which is even more screwy, these like multiverse stories. But they are doing such a good job with this series. I'm really loving it. And so far, I have not finished it yet, actually. It aired every day from like, I forget, it was like December 22nd through the 31st or something like that. They aired it every day up until the new year. I only watched the first few episodes. I really am liking it. I love the art style. I love the fact that they get almost all of the actual original actors to come in and voice their respective characters. Of course, they don't have, the real Tony Stark on there and stuff like that. They can't afford him. I don't think he's Robert Downey Jr. is not going to do that. But the people they do get do a great job, and I love the whole take on it. I love that we get to see some of these other ancillary characters like Howard the Duck in there, and
Really?
yeah, Howard the Duck and Korg. They get to play like bigger roles in this stuff. It's a lot of fun. So if you liked the first season of What If, then I definitely suggest you check out the second, because so far I'm actually liking it even more than the first one. And it does carry over with some of the characters, like Captain Peggy Carter is in this new one too, which we first saw in the first season, and then we saw her briefly in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and stuff. But again, I know she died in that, but we have to remember there are multiple Captain Peggy Carters throughout the multiverse and stuff. So the one that died in the movie is not the only one. But anyway,
like a soap opera now.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
They're not dead.
Multiverse stuff is really confusing, and I get that, and I know that might be what turns some people off from What If. And I know some people are like, well, I want the real movie. I don't want animated. I like animated stuff. I can be picky about animation too, This, no, the animation, it doesn't take me out of it at all. I love it, and I watch it with the same kind of interest and sincerity that I watch Loki, or I watch WandaVision, or I watch Endgame or anything. I think it's great. I really suggest you guys check it out if you haven't already. Megan, what have you got to recommend?
I am recommending an old show that I used to love.
Okay.
And I recently found it on Hulu again. And I started binge watching it, and I forgot how much I absolutely adore this TV show. And so I've been watching it absolutely nonstop. If I'm home, it's on. I watched it all Christmas break. And that is the 2005 TV show Bones.
Bones, okay.
Bones. So that is based off the books from Kathy Wright, and she actually helps produce the show and all that. But it follows Dr. Temperance Brennan, who's a forensic anthropologist.
Okay.
And that's her nickname is Bones, given to her by the FBI specialist that she's working with, Celie Booth.
Okay.
And they basically solve crimes using bones, sees what the bones tells us. So it's very interesting. Forensic anthropology, it's always something that's always fascinated me. And the fact that she specializes in bones really fascinates me, because I always want to be an archaeologist.
Right.
And that's more with bones, not so much the fleshy, gooey pieces of it
I gotcha.
that still smell. So, and of course it's goofy and silly. It's a dramedy. So they got very serious pieces into it. Not everybody's safe from dying in this. Okay. It's 12 seasons, so there's plenty of it to binge watch too. So
wow.
I am super excited I found this, and I can binge watch all 12 seasons.
Now, what's it on?
It is on Hulu.
Hulu, okay.
For the Hulu subscription, yes.
Okay, nice. All right. And then last but not least, we always recommend like a channel or, some kind of other content creator out there that we think is worth looking into, because obviously we love that you all watch and listen to us and everything, but there's a lot of other really great channels out there and a lot that we're big fans of. And one of the ones that I've recently become a bigger fan of is a channel on YouTube called Michael Crawford Captain Toy. So Michael's been doing this for a long time. He's been doing his Michael's Review of the Week thing on a website. He's got a website that's mwctoys.com. And now he's got a YouTube channel that goes along with that. And he has this crazy action figure collection. You watch the videos and you watch him walk up and down these aisles. And I mean like aisles of toys that he's got. Mm-hmm. And most of them, he does have some that are in the package, but most of them are out of the package and they're displayed on these shelves. It's really impressive. And it's a great place to go to find out like what new figures are out there and like how do they look? How are they posable and stuff, because that could be important if you're a person that opens figures, you know what I mean? Like, I mostly keep mine in the package a lot of times, but for a lot of people out there that like to open them and pose them and make dioramas and stuff, you need to know, like, well, how do they look out of the package? Like, is it going to be worth my money? Sometimes these figures look great, but then you go to pose them and they fall over and they're just kind of shoddily made. So he gets like pretty in depth with showing them and talking about them, and he goes all through stuff. He's got videos where it's like the best Santa Claus action figures or best chef or cook action figures. He has best Catwoman action figures, and there's a lot of them.
Wow, really?
You know, because Catwoman's been having action figures made ever since, you know, the late 60s, early 70s and stuff, you know, at least since they did Mego figures. I'm not sure if they did one in like the Captain Action or whatever the related line was with that. But yeah, so there's tons of them. You know, he's got videos that are just about Rick and Morty action figures and so on. It's really good stuff, and I just think it's worth looking into and checking out if you're into. I know a lot of the people that watch and listen to us are into toys just like I am. So yeah, Michael Crawford has a great channel out there. Check him out on YouTube and also at his website, mwctoys.com. And with that, I think we're done.
That's all she wrote, folks.
We will be back very soon, hopefully. We've got a lot of plans for 2024, a lot of new content. We're going to be doing a lot more toy stuff, a lot more of these like polls and countdowns. We're going to be doing a lot more of the video shorts, all that. Make sure you follow us on TikTok. We've got a TikTok channel now.
Sure do.
And Instagram, all that stuff. Hopefully we'll see you there. So take it easy, everybody. See you soon.
Bye, guys.